Sebastian Thrun, CEO of the electric plane maker Kitty Hawk and chairman of the online education venture Audacity. Jay Walder, global CEO of Virgin Hyperloop One, which wants to revolutionize your mobility. And our very own Nandan Nilekani, co-founder of Infosys, who revolutionized Indian IT. They'll all be talking about driving disruption and unleashing the next wave of radical transformation. The moderator is Rajiv Makhni, who's a digital guru, a man who operates on multiple platforms, on television, print, and every media you can imagine. Welcome, Rajiv.
Thank you, Kabir. Very happy to do this today. Of course, you have to understand that whenever you hear an introduction about your own self, you feel really good off stage when they're introducing you, tech guru or this or that, but then reality hits you because you suddenly realize that you wrote your own introduction and gave it for them to speak out, so then reality hits. And I think that's really what we are here today for. Transportation as disruption, as the single greatest innovation. I think one of the most interesting things that happened to quite a few of us, ironically, was that trying to come to this place, we got stuck in traffic jams where some of us had to park our cars about 300 meters away and walk. That was me. And today we're going to talk about disruption. So very quickly, just to take everybody through the fact that how much of human imagination has gone into transportation for even hundreds of years back. I'm just going to read out very quickly. Michael, who was Jules Verne's son, in an 1888 book, An Express of the Future, actually wrote this. A transatlantic tunnel in which trains are propelled through pneumatic tubes by pressurized air. That pretty much was him describing Hyperloop. But this was almost 150 years back. So that was pretty incredible. In Blade Runner, the movie, they had this car, police car, called a spinner, right? And that was a flying car that would come in and land on people's roofs. And this happened almost 40 years back. In 1960, the popular cartoon Jetsons had flying cars. In the books Stand on Zanzibar in 1969, we had cars powered by rechargeable electric fuel cells. So it's always been the human dream to have transportation of that kind. But I'm going to start off straight away with you. We were just having a conversation which got interrupted as we came on stage that 100 years back, it's not about science fiction. There were electric cars on roads in real.
Yeah, actually, 100 years ago in the United States, electric cars were about half of the cars on the road. They had the advantage that they didn't require cranking to get them started.
So why have we not progressed? If at 100 years back we had that, then why did gasoline and other powered cars become the de facto standard? If we'd started using that technology 100 years back, we could have been in a different place right now.
Fundamentally, the cars of 100 years ago had terrible batteries. They had very, very short driving range and didn't last very long.
Okay. And one of the other things that comes to my mind whenever I hear about the fact that you're a founder for Tesla is that you started this at a time where I think the world was not talking about saving the future, sustainable, or batteries would, take away pollution and everything else. Why did you start to think that an electric vehicle could be the future? Because it is kind of strange at that time. You took a small little office somewhere in California, and you started off with this dream. You wanted a sports car, though, at that time, I remember.
Well, we started with a sports car, but what I wanted to do was to restart the conversation about electric cars. I mean, in 2002, there were two things that everybody knew about electric cars. One, they suck, and two, they're dead, right? And that's because all of the electric cars that had been made before were terrible. So my idea at the beginning of Tesla was to make a car that didn't suck, a car that people actually wanted to drive. If you want to introduce a new technology, you don't start at the bottom of the market. You start someplace where your technology is actually better than what's out there before. And with electric cars outperform gasoline cars flat out.
Okay. I'm going to come back to you with some other questions, of course, including the skeptics. With you, I think we have a very interesting thing. I'm going to describe this situation because this is one of those fantasy terms everybody uses, and that is, I'm in my house, I take out my phone, I press a button, I go to the roof of my house, a flying car comes in, picks me up, and drops me off at the roof of my office, and then in the evening I reverse this. When will this become a reality?
So first of all, I want to ask the audience a question here. If I could give you a magic technology that could get you across Delhi from any point to any point in less than 5 minutes for about 10 rupees of energy, who would want this? Raise your hand. Okay, it's going to happen.
This is a biased audience. They were all stuck in a traffic jam, right? So
yeah, when you I spent about 4 hours in traffic today. So when you are stuck in traffic again, think of Sebastian and send me your checkbook, and it's going to be faster.
Still, if you notice, he hasn't answered when it'll become reality. He's got your hands to go up, but when does this become reality that we in Delhi or anywhere in India could actually press that button?
So we have prototypes in-house that fly at roughly 150, 200 miles per hour at a range of 100 miles with those specs. They take off vertically, they fly horizontally, and they are almost unnoticeable in terms of sound. We are not ready yet to launch them at scale, and it's going to be next few years. It's going to be like Tesla. It's going to take a few years.
All right. I'm going to start off with an interesting one for you, right? Before I do that, I'm just going to describe this out there. Hyperloop, just to describe what this really is. So you're basically going to put humans into small capsules and pods, put them into a tunnel, suck out all the air from that tunnel, and then actually throttle them down that tunnel at about 1,000 kilometers per hour. Just so that you understand what that speed is, your aircraft flies at 850 kilometers per hour. So this is through a tunnel, theoretically, eventually at 1,000 kilometers per hour, right? So is that a good description?
It's a fair description.
Okay, and you have a quick film that you want to show before we get down into the question-answer session, right?
Yeah, we should, because I think it's all in the imagination right now. So take a look.
Firing in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And tickets for that Mumbai-Pune ride are available just outside, so you can quickly get some of those. I'm going to come to the Mumbai-Pune part in a short while. Just one quick question. So one of the very interesting things that said is that it's that smooth that you won't even spill your coffee. But can you go to the bathroom?
Before or after your trip?
During the trip.
You don't need to. It's that quick.
Okay, so I think the answer is no. Okay, so coming down to the entire idea of Hyperloop, of course it's fantastic. But we were just having a discussion again before. If I was to compare this to flying in an aircraft, how is this different? Why is it better? Why do we need this?
Well, a couple things I think to take out of this. First of all, and we've been talking in the first two technologies. One thing you should take out of this is that this is a mass transportation system, right? And what's it changing? It's changing the way that we think about connecting cities. For a journey today that's up to 500 kilometers, for example, the burden of getting to the airport, going through that whole process, and then being on a plane for a few minutes is the exhausting part of our journey. Think about this in the context of city center to city center, get on a pod, be in the city center in less than 30 minutes to be there. It fundamentally changes the way that we think about it. Mumbai to Pune, frankly, you wouldn't really think about flying. You think about driving, or you think about taking the train, or you go on your phone and you look on Google about how long it's going to take, and the answer to every one of those modes is over 3 hours. The true answer here is 30 minutes. It changes your perspective of what areas are like, what cities can be like, the way we can shape spaces.
So this makes the most sense when it's shorter, not short, but shorter distances, those that may not make sense if you're taking a car, but make sense if you were to take a Hyperloop.
Yeah, I think it's in the range of 100 or 50 to 100 kilometers to 500 up to about 750,000 kilometers is the perfect range to be able to think about this. We can imagine Mumbai to Pune, Bangalore, Chennai. This is a very reasonable way to be able to think about it. And now we've connected urban areas in a way that we've never imagined before. We're reimagining the way that the whole landscape exists. We're reimagining the way that we live and the way we work. Your imagination just goes wild.
Right. No, it does, especially with that video. Nandan, you're here because you're the voice of reason, right? In this fantastic world of the first three technologies that we've spoken about in terms of transportation being completely disrupted, can you bring us all down to earth a little and tell us what you believe? You made a statement very, very recently that India truly needs disruption now. The problems are becoming too big. They need to be solved. And we'll have to find, Chalta hai will not work anymore, I think were your exact words. But what does India need? Does it need all of this, or does it need something else? What's the real innovation that could solve the transportation problem in India?
No, I think all three of them have shown some brilliant disruptive ideas and products that are coming out. So, that's great. I think in India, first of all, I think transportation is at a very exciting time. Our populations are growing, our cities are growing, and they're looking for all kinds of models, whether it's mass transit or whether it's personalized transport. But India is about high volume, low cost. And that's what I assume that Hyperloop, they will make sure. And because in India, the infrastructure is always behind the need. So when you build something, it gets consumed very fast. So it's a great place actually to invest, because before you know it, it's fully used, and then that drives high volume. But there are two things I think we need to think about which didn't come out in this. One is, and Sebastian actually is a pioneer. He was the original, led the Stanford team in the DARPA challenge of 2004, is what is the impact of self-driving cars and whether that will have a role here. Sebastian, you're the boss on that. And the other, I think the real big thing for India is going to be ride sharing. Because just like we went from landlines, no landlines to 1 billion mobile phones, we are going to skip the whole issue of car ownership. And you're going to be essentially using shared vehicles. And therefore, the ride-hailing aggregation is going to be big. In fact, Sachin Bansal is here. He's just made a big investment in Ola. So I'm sure he's taking a big bet on that. So I think ride-sharing, so fleets, self-driving or semi-self-driving, electric cars, and mass transit. I think all of these at high volume, low cost, in an interoperable manner, is what we need.
Just a quick contrarian view for both yours and Sachin's investment. Sorry, Sachin, I know it's 630 crores, lots of money, but just very quickly, one of the studies says that ride sharing actually puts more problems onto the road rather than take them away, because you actually take people away from public transport and put them into cars. So, and in India, there have been multiple studies that have proven that. So do you believe that that could again be the problem?
No, I think just having silos of ride sharing is not going to solve it. We need a way to interoperate your rides between mass transit and first mile, last mile. So I should be able to have on one ticket, I can come in a Ola to the station, take a Hyperloop on the other side, land in Pune, there I take an auto rickshaw from Uber. I should be able to do all that. So I think, I agree with you that silos won't work. So ultimately, an urban plan, we have to think about how to connect these silos and create an interoperable, seamless ride across multiple modes.
So Sachin, maybe Ola and Hyperloop could be your next investment, right? So
we're ready.
Interoperability. Let's talk, right? I think this is a question that is one of the most important questions on everybody's mind. This is the question that could save the planet. This is the question that could save people's lives. And of course, this question is about how was it working with Elon Musk?
People ask me a lot about Elon Musk, and I'm not going to say a lot about him. I'm not a huge fan. However,
that has been noticed, yes.
However,
okay, why don't I ask you a more specific question? So at that time when you said yourself that people weren't really looking at saving the planet with electric vehicles, there was not much funding for literally anything that sounded like a moonshot. How did Elon Musk get interested in funding what you were planning to do? Was this part of his dream also? What did he see that he said Tesla is the way to go?
So if you go back to year 2003, finding funding for a company that was going to start making cars, and not only that, electric cars, and in a time when all of the car companies of the world had said that electric cars were impossible and dead and nobody wanted them, getting funding was difficult. And I was pitching the idea of Tesla to everybody who would listen. Among those people was Elon Musk. And I pitched the plan for Tesla, which is not very different from what they're doing right now. And he saw the vision and understood it. Okay. Yeah. So he led the first round of investment and brought in some other investors along the way.
Okay. So I know that most probably I'm going to get a no comment from you, so I might as well preempt it. But how is your relationship with Elon Musk right now? I have to ask, I'm sorry. So at this present moment, do you guys talk?
No.
At all?
No.
No, not even blank calls to each other, nothing?
No, but I watched Tesla succeed, and it makes me very happy because Tesla is my baby.
Yes.
And no matter who my baby married, I'm happy to see her succeed.
Okay. And of course, do you drive a Tesla?
Of course.
You do?
I have 3 of them.
Oh, you have 3 of them. I do know that you have the second ever Tesla ever made, right? Do you drive that?
That's right. I drive it on special occasions now.
Okay, that's become a special occasion car.
Yes.
Okay. To us, a special occasion car is one that actually gets us to another place in less than an hour. That's a real special occasion for us.
Come to California. You can come drive it with me.
Okay, done. I'll take you up on that. A lot of people talk about the fact that flying cars, and I know that this has become a strange way to describe it because I don't think you describe it that way, but I think it's just become the term to use. How practical is a flying car, really? Away from a passion project, away from something that you feel for personally, is it really practical, and how do you see it actually come about in the next few years?
So first of all, it's not a car, and it's a misnomer. It has no wheels. You can think of it as an oversized drone. You can think of it as an electric helicopter. It takes off vertically, and then 200-300 feet in the air, you can fly it horizontally at speeds of like 150 miles an hour, and then it lands vertically. We have now gotten to the point, we've done over 10,000 flights, where we can train anybody in the audience to be a pilot in about 10 minutes training time. In addition to using electric propulsion, we use something incredibly modern called the computer. And we delegated to the computer all the things that are hard about flying and give you an interface with an Atari-like joystick where you can go forward, backward, left and right, up and down, and that's it. In aviation, it blows my mind that a helicopter is hard to fly. A helicopter should be easy to fly. You should just hop inside, hit the up button, and use a joystick to go forward. And the reason it's hard to fly is because we're using 1950s technology for controls. So I believe in addition to the innovation of having a complete new mode of transportation, we also can make flight available for all of you to enjoy. And if you don't believe it, we have actually a training camp in Las Vegas where we sometimes teach 50 new pilots in a single day.
But you don't think the future is autonomous flying. The vehicle should not be, because you're still talking about one of the big USPs being that it's easy to fly.
Man, imagine myself and 30 million of my copies in the Bay Area in the air at the same time would be crazy. I wouldn't want that. So there will be some autonomy level. We have vehicles that fly completely autonomously. We have a vehicle that flies in New Zealand every day as a future air taxi. And the vision is you get out your phone and you go to your Ola app or your Uber app and it comes to you. You hop inside. It gets you somewhere else. It might be one of the world's first unmanned air taxis. But at the same time, if flying is really, really, really easy, it would actually be fun to do it. So we can blend everything from completely remotely piloted, self-piloted, like a self-driving car, all the way to manual flight. The nice thing is, Nandan mentioned this, I've worked on self-driving cars for most of my career. I started the Google team, which is now called Waymo. And the one sentence summary of self-driving is, don't hit stuff, right? Like all the kids and the bicycles and all the other idiots on the ground that are in your way. When you go up 100 feet, there's almost nothing to hit. So autonomy becomes incredibly simple. The only things to hit are other vehicles.
Unless you're successful and there's millions of your flying vehicles in the air.
No, so it turns out there's a common concern, but on the ground, you're perched in these one-dimensional small arteries. And if two vehicles go opposite direction or orthogonal, there's a conflict and you have to make one wait. In India, typically the smaller vehicle waits and the bigger one goes first. It's a bit different from California, where the pedestrian goes first, the smaller vehicle goes first, the lawyer goes first. In the air, you just go up 10 feet and you're above the other vehicle and the conflict is gone. So a three-dimensional volume has so many more pathways than a one-dimensional road. So even if we took all of Delhi in the air, you'd still be hundreds of feet away from anybody else.
So, of course, one of the things that really excited me when you said that, getting pilots to learn how to fly would be, a 10-minute, 15-minute job. I'm wondering the licensing system in India for becoming a drone pilot. I mean, we see how easy it is to get one for car driving. But
actually, I just want to make your point. Actually, India has a very, very good drone policy where all drones are registered electronically and their paths are registered. So the drone sky is actually very good. It will be very useful for his project.
It's great to hear.
Of course, we come to the famous project, Mumbai-Pune. When are you and me taking a ride in it? And most importantly, who's putting in the money to do this? And what am I going to pay per ticket? Is this going to be a rich man's toy?
No, I think this is, let's be clear, this is, you said it before, this is transportation for many people. It has to be affordable. We project 150 million rides a year on the corridor that we're talking about. I think, by the way, you should be on my investor pitch because I love the way that you said this. This is one of the reasons why infrastructure and India fit so well together when you are able to develop it, is the market is right there. It exists, it is ready to be able to do it, and you don't even have to look at the induced demand that comes from 30-minute trips as opposed to 3-hour trips in doing it. We believe that it can be affordable. We believe it can be done quickly. We also have the advantage, and again, you heard this before, autonomous vehicles, if you take away the obstructions, are actually very easy to do. I love that point as well. The tube has no obstruction. Yes. So this is a simple system to actually be able to run and control once it's built. And I love that part of it.
And the date we can buy the ticket to do a Mumbai-Pune?
We've been designated as the official project proponent for this project. We hope to complete procurement process soon. And I believe that we'll break ground hopefully before the end of this year.
Oh, okay, all right, that sounds good. So we're back again to something that you said that I thought was very interesting. Again, you very recently said that India needs disruption, and the entrepreneurs here in India are in a very unique and special place that they are directly taking on innovation from US and China. Why are we in a different space from anybody else?
Well, I think the way the US companies and the Chinese companies have evolved has been very different, because China set up this great firewall and created domestic champions like Baidu, Alibaba, Tencent, Didi, and and ByteDance and all that. And the US has been, Apple, Amazon, Google, Facebook, and so on. So really you have both these guys. So the American companies can't operate in China, and the Chinese companies can't operate in the US. And you're seeing the Huawei kind of stuff. India is a place where you have both Chinese companies and Indian companies, and you have domestic entrepreneurs like Sachin. And that's why it's the ground zero of internet competition. So you'll have, on the one side, you'll have e-commerce, you'll have Amazon, you'll have a domestic entrepreneur like Flipkart, which of course now Walmart has bought, and then you'll have Alibaba through Paytm. So you'll have a US company, you'll have a Chinese company, and you'll have, so that makes the competition here much more hyper-competitive than any other market.
Interesting. So I'm now going to do one last round of questions because I think we are running out of time, but I'm going to do a quick list of skeptics, right? I put this out on social media that I'm about to do this panel, and people have completely sent in a tsunami of skepticism as well as all the good stuff. I'll quickly read the skepticism. You choose the one that is valid versus those that makes no sense at all. But before I do that, I want to know, every time the word autonomous was used, you were not a happy camper. Why is that? You're not a person that thinks autonomous and self-driving cars or self-driving anything is a good idea?
Well, first of all, electric and autonomous are two separate things, right?
Completely.
So putting the electric aside, I'm a little bit suspicious of our ability to write software that's going to be reliable enough in the scale. The amount of code that is in an autonomous vehicle today dwarfs almost anything else we've ever done. And we, frankly, don't know how to design provably correct systems. So
it's like that the new morality question that has been turned for, especially for self-driving cars, that if a car is about to hit a pedestrian outside and there's a millisecond left, what do you program that car to do? Is it going to be saving the person inside or outside? Does the age of the person outside versus inside matter, and all those questions, right?
Well, that's certainly a valid point also, is that do we want our autonomy to be making moral decisions for us? It's certainly worth exploring.
Right, okay.
As on the end, we might not know how to build provably correct cars, but we don't know how to build provably correct people as well. Just pointing this out.
Which is a good thing, I think.
The quickie skepticism out here is electric vehicles are now taking a lot of criticism that they're not saving the planet at all, from the fact that the battery to be manufactured takes a toll, the fact that the battery has to be thrown away takes a toll, and the battery, billions of these batteries have to be charged, takes a toll. That's skepticism number one. The second one, of course, is the fact that the autonomous part of it seems to be overriding all technology right now, and there's less work on EV and more on autonomous. The skepticism, which is the justified one?
Well, I mean, in terms of the footprint of electric vehicles, you just need to do the math. The amount of energy it takes to move a car per mile on an electric vehicle is much, much better than any other technology we found. I did not start off as an electric vehicle enthusiast. I started off as a not fossil fuel enthusiast. And what I did was I did the math. I said, what is the actual well-to-wheel efficiency of moving people using every mode of powering a car available? Fuel cells, diesel, biofuel, electric, gasoline, hybrid. And it was a big surprise to me to see that the electric vehicles weren't just better than all the other ones, but a lot better. That's why I started Tesla.
Okay, excellent. In terms of the personal aircraft business, the skeptics say, premature excitement working too fast will lead to danger. Serious safety issues as aircrafts and others with engine failure can still glide. This one drops like a rock. Finding enough trained pilots, you've already answered that one. Remember, this is not me. Do not kill the messenger. This is skepticism all over the world. And autonomous flight is the most dangerous thing that can ever be thought of for aircraft zipping through a city like Delhi and Mumbai.
Oh, God.
Which is the one that you think is justified?
I would say life is too short to surround yourself by skeptics. I would say almost anything we care about today, from electricity to running water to penicillin to nitrogen fertilization, there were always skeptics just before it said it should or cannot be done. Let them say it. Move on.
Okay, all right. So none of these are justified, right? Okay.
Look, I mean, if you look at this, I would say a Rishka on the ground is more dangerous than a vehicle above me 100 feet. I would say we have a safety record in aviation that surpasses any other mode of transportation today in any metric. Planes are actually safer than trains, turns out, per mile and per trip, much, much safer. I would say, look, people just lack imagination. We have made stuff safe that you would never think would be safe today. Just stop listening to critics. End of story.
All right.
Or skeptics.
Okay, skeptics say high cost of development and construction, susceptible to disruption from earthquakes, power outages, or terror attacks, cannot take any sharp curves or abrupt height change in the route, and people will not be able to move around freely at all when they are traveling. They have to be strapped in. Yeah, I know.
So here's the one that's true, and what we do anticipate that people will get onto a pod, they'll sit down in the seat, and they'll buckle a seatbelt just like they do on an airplane. The pod is, in fact, incredibly smooth. As we said, you can hold a cup of coffee and be drinking a cup of coffee, but we do anticipate that you will be sitting in a seat and you will buckle in a seatbelt to be able to do it.
Okay. And then I leave you with the not skepticism part. Okay, and that is that for each of these technologies, I'll just speak it out. You have to come up with a brand ambassador from the Indian film industry. Okay, you have to do this for us because we have to give a face to each of these technologies in India. So electric vehicles and Tesla, who would you like to see in the first advertisement for that in India?
I don't know any actors and actresses, so I really
No, not personally. I'm just talking at all, right? Okay, so let me find out maybe from Mr. Vineet Jain, who would you think would be perfect for electric vehicles? A battery that never runs out. Ranveer Singh, I knew it. I knew it from the expression that it was just about to come. Okay, Ranveer Singh, the battery that never runs out. A car that comes to your office, Sachin, a car that comes to your office and picks you up and then drops you home, it flies you back. Who's the right person? Who flies too high in the Indian film industry? Oh, he flies too high. Amir Khan, you heard that. It's on TV now. Okay, and the last one. For Hyperloop, may I ask you, who do you think would be perfect for this? Hyperloop, Indian film actor or actress, brand ambassador for the first ad they take out saying, ticket kharido. Sorry? Somebody young and energetic. Okay, I'll take it to be me, and on that note...
Just one last thing. I think if this Hyperloop thing is going to happen, and I hope it does, maybe it's time to buy a property in Pune. It'll be faster to get to Pune than to Bandra. So.
Thank you. Please give the panel a big hand.